Prosecutors like DA Alvin Bragg, they want Donald Trump to be held in contempt over the gag order, but what exactly does this mean? New York prosecutors reveal yet another crime that Trump allegedly tried to conceal with falsified business records. Police in riot gear disperse Gaza pro-Palestinian protesters at University of Southern California and Brooklyn, New York. And David Pecker drops a bombshell testimony during the Trump trial about catch and kill scheme. And we got some startling development on the third day of the New York versus Donald Trump and the gag order. So before we get into this, guys, all I want to do is take a second and ask you guys to hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys for always tuning in. And I also want to thank you guys so much for sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter. You guys are absolutely amazing. All right, so let's face it, guys. It is day 8 of Donald Trump's New York hush money trial, and DA Alvin Bragg's case against Donald Trump was a historic mistake, to say the least. But in spite of that, President Donald Trump was back in court today for Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's hush money trial against him. So there's a hearing to determine if he should be held in contempt. So DA Alvin Bragg claims that Donald Trump has violated his gag order like 10 times. But after that, the ex-publisher of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, he returned to the stand to testify in the so-called catch and kill scheme. So Pecker described how he and his associates handled a second catch and kill story involving Karen McDougal, who is a former Playboy model. So catch and kill basically just refers to the practice of buying the rights to a story to prevent it from being published. Now, although the scheme is not illegal, it involves tabloids paying to suppress negative stories about Trump. So New York Judge Juan Merchan, in his case, held a hearing on the prosecution's request that Donald Trump be held for contempt of court and fined at least $3,000 for allegedly violating his gag order, which is actually a compromising of Donald Trump's First Amendment right, but that's a whole nother story. So McDougal claimed she had an affair with Donald Trump, which he denied. Pecker mentioned that in early June 2016, Dylan Howard, the National Enquirer's editor, heard about McDougal's story. Pecker sent Howard to California to interview McDougal and informed Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's attorney, about the claims. Now, during this period, Pecker was in constant communication with Michael Cohen, sometimes several times a day. Now, at one point, Michael Cohen warned that discussing sensitive information over a landline was risky. So in order to maintain privacy, they switched to the encrypted app Signal, which, according to Michael Cohen, provided secure communication with no paper trail and conversations that were destroyed after the call. So Pecker wasn't quite sure if that was entirely accurate, but he kind of used the app, noting it often cut off after about 30 seconds. So Pecker knew that Michael Cohen informed Donald Trump about McDougal's claims because of a call that he received when he was in New Jersey on business. So Donald Trump called Pecker saying Michael Cohen had told him about the McDougal allegations and asked what he thought about it. So Pecker informed Donald Trump that McDougal had offers from various outlets, including ABC's Dancing with the Stars and a Mexican group willing to pay her $8 million for the story. So David Pecker suggested buying the story to keep it from being published. However, Donald Trump responded, "I don't buy any stories. Anytime you do anything like this, it always gets out." Now, despite this, Pecker advised that the story should be removed from the market, and Donald Trump said he'd think about it and have Michael Cohen call him back in a few days. So while Howard was in California talking to McDougal, Cohen repeatedly called Pecker, seemingly more agitated each time. So Pecker assumed that this was because Donald Trump was asking Cohen for updates, though he noted that this was just his assumption. Now, in the end, the National Enquirer secured the rights to McDougal's story for $150,000, but they will never publish it. So Pecker testified with a typical New York accent, gesturing with his hands. His hair was all white and combed back, and he wore round glasses. The jurors, they seemed pretty engaged, watching very intently during his testimony. Some occasionally glanced at the prosecutor, Joshua Steinglass, toward Trump. So the judge, Juan Merchan, listened with his head propped on his hand as Pecker recounted his story. So at this point, Donald Trump faces 34 felony counts for reimbursements prosecutors claim his company made to his lawyer, Michael Cohen, for hush money payments. Now, these payments, they were allegedly disguised in records as legal legal expenses. Now, generally speaking, guys, contempt of court means someone has violated an order of the court, according to Cornell Law School at least, or has done something to obstruct or interfere with the orderly administration of justice. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden is currently hitting the campaign trail while Donald Trump has to waste time in court with all these phony cases. So, do you guys think that it's fair for DA Alvin Bragg to bring up an 8-year-old case that was already deemed as not being a crime by the FEC, the DOJ, and other large entities, only to then upgrade the crime to a felony just to try to keep Donald Trump off the campaign trail? I mean, me personally, I think it's highly unfair. Now, if you think that it's unfair that DAs like Fani Willis, Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James can just make up crimes to accuse Trump of, type in "no, this is not fair" in the comments down below. So in other news, guys, a group of pro-Palestinian demonstrators gathered at USC, and their protest eventually led to a confrontation with the police in riot gear. That's right, guys. So the police instructed the large crowd to leave, creating a skirmish line to manage those who refused to comply. Some protesters began to leave, but over 100 remained, with a group forming a circle and kind of linking arms to resist being dispersed. As police began to surround the group, others in the crowd started chanting slogans like "We want peace," "Hands off students." So later on, by evening time, about 6 p.m., officers had arrested several people in the circle, and more people voluntarily surrendered. So by about 9:30 p.m., about 35 more people had been arrested for trespassing, with more arrests still underway. And the protests initially began in the morning when the group gathered at the Alumni Park with banners and tents, which is similar to demonstrations happening at other college campuses in the United States. A scuffle broke out earlier in the day, leading the USC officials to close the campus to all students for safety reasons. Protests against Israel filled the streets in Brooklyn, New York, and escalated at universities across the United States, some of which included Jewish Passover Seders, and demonstrators demanded an end to civilian casualties in Gaza. Now, the growing protests follow mass arrests of demonstrators at some East Coast universities in recent days, and they're showing a deepened dissatisfaction in the United States, historically Israel's most important ally, with the course of the war with Hamas. So, my question for you guys is, do you believe that law enforcement should take more of a hands-off approach during student protests to avoid escalating tensions, or do you think that the police should get involved sooner? Just comment yes or no down below on that one. Now, when Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg brought his high-profile case against former President Donald Trump, many expected a solid legal argument from Alvin Bragg. However, this case seems to be built on rather shaky foundations, and the cracks are already starting to show. In fact, a prominent law professor has poked several holes in DA Alvin Bragg's approach and criticized it, pointing out how it's unusual and problematic to try a federal crime in a New York state court. Additionally, the theory behind Alvin Bragg's charges, it lacks the precedent and it relies on some rather weak allegations that are difficult to support with existing law. And so these weaknesses suggest that not only might Alvin Bragg's case just completely, utterly fail in public, but it could also just backfire, highlighting the questions about selective prosecution and raising a lot of doubts about the credibility of the Manhattan DA's office. So, as the trial unfolds, it could very well become very clear that Alvin Bragg's strategy has more holes than substance, potentially leading to a major setback in this prosecution. Now, Cornell explains that in New York, civil contempt is used to protect parties' rights to litigation, while criminal contempt is used to protect the judicial system, but it's generally meant to recognize an offense against public justice as opposed to a litigant. Criminal contempt in the first degree under New York law is treated as a Class E felony, which could lead to imprisonment of up to 4 years, though it could be much less depending upon the judge's decision. Just yesterday, a former high-ranking official from the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, they were conducting opening arguments for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg in court. Now, this former DOJ official, they used to hold a very prestigious position, one that usually leads to lucrative opportunities in the corporate world. Now, this is actually noteworthy that somebody from this background would transition to work for a local district attorney and present opening arguments in a courtroom in New York City. This is a tremendous downgrade for them. So this kind of move from a high-ranking federal official to a local case is very suspect, guys. In fact, Biden's got folks doing his dirty work, and now they're just so hard up to take Donald Trump down that they're now at a point that they don't care how obvious it looks. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that they're only doing this to take down Donald Trump because he's a big threat to Joe Biden. and they know it. Now, if you guys think that they're just doing this to attack Donald Trump and to hurt his chances in the 2024 presidential elections, type yes in the comment section down below. Now, another point discussed in court is the legality of non-disclosure agreements, okay, the NDAs, right? So the defense argued that the NDAs and compensation given in exchange for them, they're not illegal. DA Bragg's office, however, centered their case around testimony from David Pecker, a former publisher for the National Enquirer. Although Pecker isn't directly involved in the case against Donald Trump, which focuses on Stormy Daniels, he is used by the prosecution to illustrate Trump's overall behavior and mindset. During a court break, Trump made a post on Truth Social and said that the judge is highly conflicted, to put it mildly. Judge Juan Merchan has taken away his constitutional right to free speech. Everyone's allowed to talk and lie about him, but he's not allowed to defend himself. This is a kangaroo court. What do you guys think? Is this completely lopsided against Donald Trump? Or do you think that Donald Trump's actually going to get a fair trial? Now, guys, that was the news portion of today's video. Now I would like to introduce you guys to the sponsor of today's video, Carbon Revolution. So Carbon Revolution specializes in lightweight carbon fiber wheels, focusing on creating products for the global automotive market. Now, as a top-tier supplier to car manufacturers, the company has over 70,000 wheels in use worldwide. Established back in 2007, Carbon Revolution set out to revolutionize vehicle efficiency with innovative technology. The company transitioned from making one-off prototypes to mass-producing wheels for some of the most renowned car brands. Carbon Revolution is currently listed on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol CREV. Now, I'm no financial advisor, and no, this is not investment advice. Investors should always conduct their own due diligence before investing. Now, at the time of this recording, Carbon Revolution stock is trading at a price of just under $15 per share, but analyst estimates on Yahoo Finance have a one-year target estimated price of $39 per share. Carbon Revolution has a fantastic start to the fiscal year 2024. As a matter of fact, the company achieved record-breaking revenue for the first half of the year, with particularly impressive results in the second quarter. During this period, Q2 of 2024, the company brought in $14.8 million, which is a whopping 177% increase compared to the same time last year. The company recently announced that it had reached an agreement with Orion Infrastructure Capital, OIC, to release $5 million from an escrow fund. So this fund is a part of a larger financial arrangement with OIC, allowing Carbon Revolution to access up to $110 million in total. The early release of $5 million is a part of the agreed terms and conditions as outlined in the company's filings with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, additionally, the company shared its preliminary estimate for the revenue in the third quarter, which ended March 31st, 2024. They expect it to be between $10 million and $11 million. Even at the midpoint of this estimate, it would mean a 110% increase compared to the same quarter last year. In simple terms, Carbon Revolution's revenue grew significantly in the first half of the fiscal year, and it's likely to keep growing at a strong pace in the third quarter. The company's performance is a positive sign showing that its business is expanding rapidly. Carbon Revolution stands out for its large market potential as its technology can extend electric vehicle EV range and help meet regulatory requirements. The company holds unique protected technology, offering a significant advantage over competitors. Its strong industry relationships are evident through ongoing contracts with top-tier customers. Additionally, its advanced production methods increase capacity and reduce costs, providing a very clear path to growth. Car manufacturers are focused on electric vehicles, but they're facing challenges with maximizing range. Heavy batteries and large aluminum wheels, they make cars heavier, while large wheels constrain suspension systems affecting performance. Car designers' preference for bigger wheels complicates regulatory compliance and fuel efficiency, posing additional challenges. Carbon Revolution offers a solution to these challenges by making wheels that are 40 to 50% lighter than aluminum, which can increase EV range by 5 to 10% and also reduce vehicle weight by up to 100 pounds. The lighter wheels ease pressure on the suspension, improving traction and driver control, especially in large SUVs and luxury cars. With over a decade of industry experience, the company has contracts with leading car manufacturers like Ford, GM, Ferrari, Jaguar, Land Rover, Renault, and a premium German automaker. Carbon Revolution experienced revenue growth of 107% while commissioning its advanced production system, the Megaline. The rapid scaling required more labor and additional costs, impacting earnings during the first half of 2024. The company's strong safety record shows a reduction in the lost time injury frequency rate, the LTIFR, to 3.2, significantly below industry benchmarks. Now, despite the challenges posed by the Southern Hemisphere's summer shutdown, preliminary revenue estimates for the third quarter of 2024 are between $10 million and $11 million, indicating continued growth. Carbon Revolution's mission is to enhance the performance and sustainability of vehicles worldwide. Its vision is to become the global leader in lightweight wheels. Carbon Revolution has 18 contracted projects with 5 global car manufacturers, employing over 650 people, mainly in Australia, with teams in North America and Europe. Its investments in automation and efficiency are driving profit margin growth, with opportunities for further cost reductions by expanding to more cost-effective regions. Carbon Revolution enjoys strong visibility and has a clear path for growth, with consumer demand for its wheels often exceeding expectations. The company's strong connections with major car manufacturers, they offer long-term stability and significant growth potential. For more information on Carbon Revolution, make sure to click on the link in the video description down below or check them out on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol CREV.